The word of the day is one. That makes me think about how a lot of us got into role-playing, and that, at least, I think particularly in the UK, but not just in the UK, was through game books, choose your own adventure books, Blood Sword, or Fighting Fantasy, or Tunnels and Trolls, and then that was an easy kind of segue into proper role-playing, particularly in the case of Tunnels and Trolls, but also in these other cases. But solo role-playing isn't something you can necessarily really do. I mean, the choices become limited, right? There's no games master to moderate or interpret your action. The closest you get, I think, was in the Blood Sword and so on books by Dave Morris, where you got more tactical options, where you played out the combat yourself on kind of a grid and everything, and in some instances, but it still never really gave you the role-playing option. So I think the bare minimum you need for an authentic role-playing experience is two people. But I keep getting drawn back to the idea of solo adventures, or redoing the old style game book, the old style choose your own adventure thing, partly for nostalgic reasons, but partly because I kind of want to re-examine the whole thing, the way that it works, and see if there are different ways that we can interpret or judge. I mean, choose your own adventures were used quite a lot in D6 as a way to introduce people to the system and the complexities of the system and so on. Almost like a substitute for that actual play stuff you tend to get, or examples of play. In some ways that was more engaging, and it did teach you the system through the way you interacted with it. So might that not be a good way to teach people to use and to play other games, to kind of handhold them through a set of limited choices that demonstrate how the game works without getting too bogged down, no more than like 100 entries or something. You don't need to hide them all on different pages or whatever. I always thought that was an interesting approach, and it's something I want to try, and I think it's perhaps a more effective alternative to examples of play or actual play recordings or whatever, because it has that interactive element that is what draws people to RPGs in the first place. It's just still very limited in terms of choices, and that is really the unique selling point of RPGs, that you can be and that you can do anything, even if most people don't avail themselves of that opportunity.